Hello everybody and welcome to another hardware review. Today with something shiny, something new and something a bit blue. This is the second of our HAVIT keyboards sent to us by the people at HAVIT, and they are letting us keep this keyboard, so it's ours forever and ever and ever. This is the HV-KB378L. It is an RGB lit keyboard, fully RGB lit with mechanical switches. Switches that are not made by Kale, if I'm pronouncing this right. These are Otemu switches, Otemu blue switches actually. You can tell because they are quite clicky. So, you probably seen the unboxing a few weeks ago. This review was a bit late because I wanted to be sure that the keyboard is up to snuff, and well, you'll see in a couple of minutes if it is. Stay tuned. One of the first things you'll probably notice about this keyboard is that it has an asymmetrical design to its palm rest, namely the left part of it is a bit more extended, leaving more area to support your left hand when you're playing games that use the group of keys on this part of the keyboard, like the WSD, the numbers, and just about everything you would use in League of Legends or other MOBAs. It's a nice feature to have, not necessarily a critical one, but it's a nice piece of design. The other noticeable thing at first glance about the HV-KB378L is that it has a metal faceplate. It's made of aluminum. All the keys are very well lifted above this plate, meaning that cleaning it is a cinch. You will not have problems with dirt accumulating between the keys or under them because you can just take them off one by one, well, not even all of them, just a few of them, and blow out all the gunk under there. It's a lot easier to clean than the other keyboard, and it'll probably make it more durable, I would say, in the long run, because it's also kinda hard to spill things in it when there's nothing in it to spill it. You just sort of spill things on the metal and you can just clean it off with no problems. The rest of the keyboard is made out of plastic with the exception of the feet, which also have rubber inserts on both sides, so you can have them very well planted on your desk or anywhere you want to put them, no matter if you choose to keep the feet extended or retracted. Even though this is built with metal in it, with aluminum, it is considerably lighter than the previous keyboard, mostly because it doesn't have a gigantic piece of plastic and LEDs covering every inch of its sides. Instead, it just has these LEDs on the top, which are just there for decoration. They can be turned off, and unless you do turn them off, the light from the blue light they emit will sometimes interfere with the top keys, like the print screen, the pause key, and sometimes the F1 to F4 keys. But it's not really that much of an interference. You can just notice a slight tint to the keys depending on what color you have them set on. It's a nice feature to have, though not one that's necessarily very flashy, very interesting to the eye. Now, if these LEDs were also RGB, yeah, that could have been something, but just having them be blue, it's really not that much. Also, one thing to note, the Magic Eagle logo is again not illuminated, but it is placed on the aluminum surface right above the arrow keys. I'd say it's a better position for it because you can see it a bit more clearly than you would if it was just placed up here and obscured completely in the dark. But since it's placed right between some very bright keys, you'll always see it. Now, first things first, the lighting for this keyboard is superb. The lighting that the previous keyboard had was also great. Again, I would have recommended that you get the white keyboard instead of the black one because the light is more powerful in the white version due to the reflective capacity of white surfaces. This sort of doesn't have the same issue because the aluminum will reflect light like nobody's business. This keyboard looks amazing. Even in bright light you can still see the colors very clearly. One reason for this is the fact that it has a reflective aluminum surface that the light can bounce off of and create more of a show with more amplitude, and the other reason is that it doesn't use the exact same LEDs. These ones have a sort of a different feel to them, I would say. Not only do they seem to be brighter, but also the way that they emit light is a bit different, to the point where if you were to set this keyboard to white light or something similar, a composite light, and then move your vision not even fast across it, you will actually see individual RGB lighting come off every one of these keys. So like individual red, green and blue LEDs seem to be emitting from each of these keys. I think that's more to do with the refraction in the keycaps or something, because the LED, when you look at it straight, it appears to be completely white, but if you move your vision, it'll just show like it's just being split apart. It's a very atypical effect, and it can be a bit disturbing if you just look at your keyboard from time to time and just, instead of seeing the color you have it set to, you sometimes see the afterglow of RGB. With more primary colors, it doesn't have that problem, and I wouldn't say it's a problem, it's just a very unusual effect. In terms of lighting features, this keyboard almost has it all. It doesn't have all the interactive capabilities that the previous one had, but it does have a few other ones, like all the keys lighting up one by one in sequence. That's a really nice thing to see. Not necessarily very practical, but it's a very nice show. It is a very well made keyboard in terms of lighting. Like, I have really no complaints about it, again, apart from the fact that it's not exposed. Like, the capabilities, the lighting capabilities are again not exposed in software, so you cannot customize them additionally to what the keyboard offers you by default. Well, yes, you do have the option to color each and every key any way you want, again, but you can't interface it with a game, you can't interface it with Winamp, with anything in software. So again, that's sort of a black mark on the HAVIT keyboards. If they had that, they would actually be some of the best around probably. Well, this one would, because I'm gonna get the keys soon. In terms of lighting modes, you have here just about anything you would ever want, including a couple that are made just for games. It actually has 5 of them pre-programmed through the 1 to 5 keys for FPS, for shooters, for other types of shooters. It has a whole bunch of keys, and also again, you can define your own setup if you wish to. One thing that it doesn't have that the other keyboard had is macro support, so there is no support for recording your own macros in this game. You'll just have to use something else if you really want a macro. What it does have, however, and this again isn't something to do with the lighting, is actual complete full media key support. So you have buttons for skip track, for next track, for previous track, and you also have a few extra ones for accessing your email, accessing the homepage of your browser, your calculator even. You have a few more keys that may prove useful to you. Well, the last ones, not sure exactly how useful they would be. I'm not sure exactly how many people do still use shortcuts to access their mail client these days. But it's a nice thing to have, I would say. And this keyboard does have it, if you get the joke, the company being called HAVIT. Also, just like the previous keyboard, I recommend that you do not throw out the instruction booklet that comes with it, because even though most of the function keys are written on the keyboard and there's less of them, most of them are just put on the insert key, there are a few that are not present on the keyboard. For example, you have to press FN and pause break to turn off these lights on the top. That's not written on the keyboard, but it is in the instruction booklet. Also, before we get to other things, one thing to mention is that the top part, the plastic one, is quite shiny, and this one will get dirty quite fast. It'll actually get even scratched quite easily, which is kind of sad. Had I made it of the same material, the same kind of plastic, the textured one that is on the bottom, that probably would have been a problem. It would have actually made the keyboard more cohesive in terms of style. Now to the more important thing. What's the technology behind this keyboard in terms of switches, and how well does it behave in games? Well, I'm happy to say that this keyboard is not made with Kel Brown switches. It is made again with the Otemu blue switches, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they are, as I've said before, very clicky switches. Clicky switches have a certain style to them. They may not be the best possible switches for games, because pressing them down requires a bit more force, and while you can keep them sort of almost completely pressed but not actually enough to actuate and then press them again to get them to work fast for a game where you need fast motion, that may not necessarily be the handiest way of using them, and just the pressing them completely and pressing again will take a bit longer than it would on a keyboard that had brown switches or switches that didn't have that click to them, that both tactile and audio feedback to it. So they may not be the fastest keys possible for gaming, for games that require very fast movement with keyboard. But for typing, oh my god, for typing, this is one of the best keyboards I've ever owned. It is superb for typing, it is magnificent for typing. Were it not in the UK format, like this one, I would actually keep this one because it is just superb for typing. But I'm not used to the UK format, so I'm gonna send this to Raul because he doesn't actually use it for typing. I don't know what he uses keyboards for, maybe getting dirty, but he'll have an easy time to click this one at least. So in terms of gaming performance, yeah, it's still good, unless you use it for games that require, again, very fast motion. And by fast motion I mean having to input the same key, like the exact same key over and over again in a large amount of presses per minute, per second. If you're going to use more keyboards, more keys, more of the keyboard, but quickly, yeah, that won't be a problem. Pressing them fast is not an issue, but pressing the same one, again, very fast can be. So it depends on the kind of game you play. Personally, I don't see this as being a problem with most games. Maybe fighting ones may cause some issues, but the majority of games will not. As for the switches themselves, the Otemo Blue switches, they have not failed on me so far. They are superb switches. I have not noticed any keys to have any problem. They all work. They all have an activation distance that is just about the same. It's especially helped because of that click. Like, that click is the best indicator that you have pressed it down. Even though there may be a slight variation between the activation distance, that auditive feedback combined with the more noticeable tactile feedback, that compensates for just about any slight variation that the keys may have in their actuation distance. So again, for typing, this has been superb. It's been an honor to test this keyboard because I have not had this much fun typing in a long while. And if you're wondering, yes, it does have anti-ghosting and N-key rollover, so again, you can slam your head on the keyboard and all the keys you've hit with your face will be written down, so that won't be a problem in case you have a more original style of writing or of playing video games. Now we come to the more important issue, the price. This is listed at around $90, which may be seen as a lot, but again, what you're getting is a keyboard with an aluminum plate on it, which is gonna make it easy to clean. You're getting N-key rollover, you're getting full RGB, you are getting blue clicky switches, which are very nice. But you're not getting some more advanced features like, I'm gonna say it again, I really wish that the volume was set up better. If the volume was set up with a knob, with a dial around here, it would have been superb. Currently, it is a better setup than the previous keyboard has because all the volume keys are limited to just this portion of the keyboard. They're not split among these two. But again, I would have preferred if it had a hardware interface for the volume. Also, again, since this is not a keyboard that's limited by a giant piece of LEDs all around it, they could have put in a USB pass-through that will let you use this keyboard to insert the USB sticks or game controllers or something else. That would have been quite a useful feature, at least for me. But again, I do have a USB hub now to take care of that. So, if you're in the market for a keyboard like this one with blue switches, blue very clicky switches, yeah, I would say give this a try. It's honestly a very good keyboard. Again, one of the problems I have with it is that the RGB lighting doesn't have a software interface to it that I can access, and I don't think that's gonna change anytime soon. But if it ever does, yeah, this could actually be a fantastic keyboard. Currently, it's just a good one. And it's quite versatile, so that'll be about it. There aren't actually any flaws to it. It's probably one of the most complete and unproblematic keyboards I've owned in the past couple of years, which is quite surprising. And it costing $90 may have something to do with that. All in all, it is a very nice keyboard. If you're looking for something similar for a keyboard that's mechanical with blue switches, very nice RGB LED lighting, yeah, I would say give this a try unless you're looking for something that's a bit more open in terms of software or has different features to it like USB or macro support, which this one does not have. It also doesn't have extra keys, so it's just limited to the standard what a keyboard has to offer, the standard keys. Well, that'll be it for this review of the HAVIT KB378L. Almost forgot the name, it's a bit hard to remember. KB378L keyboard. I'll be back next week with a review of the Trust GXT177 mouse. Up until then, well, watch our shows and have a good time. Goodbye. Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed it, please consider watching some of our other videos and maybe sharing them or giving a thumbs up if you feel like it. And if you really liked what you saw, please check out our Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you could help us make much better shows and get some rewards in the process. Or you could consider buying my book called Tale of Doom. Volume 1 is out now and available for just $2. And as always, if you thought it was horrible, you know where to find me and complain about it.